go. That's good. All right. Anybody wants to let me know if they can hear me properly? Is it too loud? Not loud enough? While we're at it, I think it should be fine. That's good. Although I can make it a little bit more. I can. Let me see. All right. I could make it a little bit louder. I can hear me properly. Is it too loud? Hear me not loud enough? Is it too loud? While we're at it, loud enough? I think it should be fine. While we're at it, I think it should be fine. Okay. Is it too loud? Well, not loud enough. I think it should be loud. While we're at it, I think it should be fine. While we're at it, hey Josh. Although I can make it. All right. Okay. We still have time. Too loud. Well, not loud enough. Is it too loud? Well, we're at it. Loud enough. I think it should be fine. While we're at it, hey Josh. I think it should be fine. While we're at it, hey Josh. Although I can fine. All right. Okay. Volume is good. Good. We still have time. I have a different setup now, so the camera is just above the monitor, but it's not loud enough, so I might look at myself. While we're at it, loud enough. Although I'm fine. While we're at it, try to look at the camera. Although I can fine. We'll start with that. Although I can fine. Volume is good. Good. We still have time. I have a different setup now, so the camera still have time. I have a different setup now, so the camera have time. You're right, like loud. While we're at it, loud enough. I'm fine. While we're at it, Josh. Although I'm fine. The sound is repeating. Josh. Although I can fine. Volume is good. Good. We still have time. Volume is good. Good. Now, so the camera still have time. I have a different setup now, so the camera still have time. Right, loud. While we're at it, loud enough. Right, loud. While we're at it, loud enough. Although I'm fine. The sound is repeating. Josh. Although I'm fine. The sound is repeating. Josh. Although I'm fine. Still have time. Volume is good. Good. Still have time. Volume is different setup now, so the camera still have time. I have a different setup now, so the camera still have time. Right, loud. While we're at it, loud enough. Although I'm fine. While we're at it, Josh. Although I'm fine. The sound is repeating. Josh. Although I'm fine. The sound is repeating. Volume is good. Good. Still have time. Volume is good. Setup now, so the camera still have time. I have a different setup now, so the camera still have time. Right, loud. While we're at it, loud enough. Right, loud. While we're at it, loud enough. Although I'm fine. Sound is while we're at it, Josh. Although I'm fine. Sound is repeating. Josh. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me now? 1, 2, 1, 2. you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes. Yeah, but
Un, deux, un, deux. There's still echo. It's so weird. Un, deux, un, deux. There's still echo. It's so weird. Un, deux, un, deux. There's still echo. It's so weird. Un, deux, un, deux. Okay, I think it's better now. Un, deux, un, deux. Okay, I think it's better now. Un, deux, un, deux. Okay, I think it's better now. Okay, I don't think I have other. Okay, audio capture, micros. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. No, I shut down everything now. I use the speaker of the camera. There's no other. Is it better? Okay, I'll say something and 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm gonna wait, and then you can tell me if within a few seconds there's echo. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. So is it clear? Is it loud enough? Hi, everybody. Okay, great. All right, let's get to it. So today I wanted to make it like a a spring update. Okay, I think a lot of people have been waiting for the damn machine, and I think the machine is here, and we're going to talk about this today. And I thought I would bestow on you a PowerPoint presentation. I thought that would be the best way to go about our different topics that I need to go through today with you guys. And hopefully there will be a lot of people that are expecting stuff, so I can give you a full-on update what's going to happen and how I think I'm going to go about things. So I thought the best way to go about this was to do a simple and interesting um, PowerPoint presentation. So without further ado, yeah, I'll talk about this. I don't want to pay too much attention to the chat right now. If you're okay with this, I just want to go through. I'll stop along the way and answer any questions you may have. But I will address everything that needs to be addressed at this point. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so today, guys, I want to talk to you guys about definitely the pick and place. Now that I have it, what's going to be the next step, right? It's you know, it's finally here. The second thing is, okay, now that we have the pick and place, how do we go about doing the 2560K orders? How is it going to go? I mean, right now, well, I'll come to that later. I think it's pointless to start here. Then what's going on with the Gen X? There's a lot of work that's been done on the Gen X, but there's still some stuff to be tweaked. Then the production schedule of the Gen X, what's left to be done with the FPGA design, and miscellaneous items that needs to be talked about. I'll keep that for the end. And finally, at the end, I'd like to keep everybody on their toes all along. I'll try to make it within an hour. We'll do the raffle, drawing for the Gen X pizza box. All right. But hold on. I want to do something in a way I can see what I'm doing. Okay. It's difficult to see everything at the same time. Okay. So I want to be able to see the chat. Okay. So first item on the list. Well, the introduction. Introduction in general is really about what's going on. From the moment I got the machine last week, I was like, okay, I got it. It's there. I've been kind of preparing everything, but I'll come back to it like in a few seconds. Basically, I mean, the introduction is basically what I just said. I'll come back to it. I wrote the Peters kernel. Please remind me to talk about it later. All right, so let's switch to in the first gear. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to figure out my things here. Okay. All right, guys. The pick and place. So the pictures you see at the bottom right is the picture of the enclosure or the case, the wooden case I got this week. Okay. So basically, what happened is that by the time I got contact, of all things that happened, CPSA was by far the one that responded the quickest. Even DHL didn't respond so fast. Both attempt to talk to CPSA. I'm not going to go back to the story because I've talked about it in the previous video. You can look it up. So basically, the two packages were split. You see the carton box and the wooden box. The wooden box was in Hamilton, Ontario. The carton box was in Vancouver. Basically, what's in the carton box is the feeder. So this thing here that you don't see my thing, but what's on the side of the machine on one of the pictures. So this is what was in the box plus a couple of things, and the wooden box is the machine itself. So when I finally contacted CPSA, because CPSA was this thing in the Netherland or whatever, Ether, whatever I had to find, because they don't have phone numbers, you need to find an emails. I found an emails specifically for Hamilton, and the person answered me like within 5 minutes. And although she said that it was clear, but it was not. And that's what happened on both cases, actually. Both CPSA told me that when I contacted them, oh, no, it's clear, but in reality it was not. But it's okay because they gave me, the first person in Hamilton gave me the numbers of the import, some people in the import department in Hamilton from DHL, which I contacted, and then I started dealing with this lady, absolutely amazing. Her name is Cindy. She really did vouch it for me. She really got things going. And basically the deal was in Hamilton was to get, because my packages were called for inspection. Apparently I'm a drug mule or something. And what happened is that, every day they get a ton of packages. They have to they do their inspections. they go through. Probably what happens is that I guess a bunch of people from CBSA, the Customs Service of Canada, go through every transporter and they start inspecting certain packages, probably random or something, or they decide all of a sudden, oh, we're gonna inspect this. But I guess calling for inspection and doing the inspections are two things that are being done at separate times. So in our case, there was a lot of delays, probably because there was a lot of protests here in Vancouver. Probably by the time in February and March, that was the time where the freedom convoys and all these things were happening, probably clogged up the whole CBSA thing. And so at some point there was some clearance event made on the packages, on both packages. It took a month and a half to get this little box being checked, or something happened in Vancouver, and it took a lot more time in Hamilton. But suffice to say that from the moment I got the person in Hamilton, what happened is basically that person in the import department kind of got the inspector of CBSA to do the inspection. And before they went to town on my box, it was pristine and beautiful and perfect. So this is how they went about it. So they opened it, looked it up, see what was inside, and that was done 2 weeks ago. So by the time the CBSA guy just chew down the side of my box and look into the box, it was two weeks ago. And then after that, the problem, what happened after that is that was like, okay, the inspection in Hamilton is done. Basically, we need to wait for Vancouver to say, hey, it's okay, ship your stuff. And that took another week. And ultimately, I ended up talking to CBSA in Vancouver. They said, oh, blah, 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 blah. No, it's clear. And one morning, I got an email saying, hey, no, the other box is clear. Send the email back to Hamilton. And then last weekend, the box was shipped to Vancouver. Barely made it because it's all broken at the bottom as well. But anyway, so at the end of the day, early this week, the deal was, okay, so now I have the boxes in Vancouver. So what do we do for shipping, for delivery? So at that point, I call in, customer support, and they say, well, the other box is not cleared. It's like, what? So finally, I had to reach out for TBSA and everything. So bottom line, Tuesday morning, somebody tries to deliver the first box. The other one is not cleared yet. The guy tried to contact me in the morning. I was sleeping, didn't leave any message till the moment I wake up. I call him back. I say, hey, I'm gonna try tomorrow, or you can come and pick it up. Took my friend, went there, picked it up, and by that time I got an email from CBSA saying, no, it's fine now. The second box is clear. You can pick it up. So we basically took both together, and it's here. So I made it here. I installed it. As most of you knows, I've used that machine before in my prior job, so I know how it works. I know its kinks and stuff. This is a new version, meaning that they changed the stepper motors for servos. So it's quite fast, but there's two things. This machine is quite fast, but it has a lot of inertia, so it moves a lot. And if you don't want your parts to fly around, you really need to have a stable base. And right now it's not stable. So yesterday I went to buy some cinder blocks. I'm going to put it almost on the floor, put it on cinder blocks, so it's not going to move. That's the first thing. The second thing, it's very loud because of the vacuum pump that is integrated in the machine, so you don't need like a separate compressor and everything to have the vacuum to pick up the parts. It's inside, but for some reason it is vibrating with something else and it's making like a big speaker. It's very loud. So I need to kind of look into it to see if I can, reduce the sound a lot. And the other thing, I'll try to figure out a way to cover it up, because the way my apartment is, I'm kind of at the end of the building. So there's nobody next door, which is great. And there's just somebody at the top. So I will probably, use the machine during the day so I don't create chaos and people start, bugging me about the noise. So cutting down the noise is very important. So right now, so basically, I wanted to take it slow because the second step for me was, okay, I need to gear up my oven to be able to get the fume out of my place, because when you start doing a lot, I mean, one or twos is fine, you know, but when you're starting doing a lot, that's going to be a lot of fume. So I bought the stuff yesterday at the, hardware store. So my plan is this weekend, I plan on setting it up, everything, and start doing some boards. And since I got experience with it, it should be really fast. So before I jump in the other stuff, the idea right now is really to, get a good feel of it. Like I said, I really want to mitigate the sound, the vibration, and the deal is really to, since I'm going to use this machine to place the same components. It's all about placing small components that are in very big quantities. You know, 0 0.1, 0, 0.1, all these different values, the 10Ks, the 1K resistors, they are everywhere. So this takes 70-80% of my time when I'm building them by hand. So there's a Gen X has 1,000 components on them. And there's probably like 800 components that are just capacitors and resistors, like 1K, 10Ks. You know, you just reuse them over and over again. So there's 22 slots on the machine with the width for the right reel to put small components like 0603. So I can put 22 different components, and the idea will be to put the components, I use the same components over and over again. So I'll put them all, the one that are more than one or twos. The onesies and twosies I'll put by hand, because there's still a portion of this work to be done by hand. So all the semiconductors, the resistor, not the resistor, but the transistors, ICs, all these will be put by hand. In general, it takes about, I remember the FMX used to take about 45 minutes to build, about half an hour, 45 minutes to build. And then I was taking maybe half an hour to put everything else. So you see, I went from 5 hours to 1 hour. So that means that if I wake up, I start this machine at 12, probably by, I don't know, by 6, 7, 8, 9, I might be able to build 10 full size. I'm talking about the top side of a Gen X, for example. I should be able to do like 10 boards. If I don't want to extend the sound during the day, I would say 10 boards per day, 10 top sides. But if I do back sides, probably it's going to take like 15 minutes. And there's not a lot to stuff to add by hand. So I'll be like putting in a machine, oven, machine, oven, machine, oven. So in terms of strategy of fabrication, right now, I'm caught in the position where, and I've talked about this in my other videos, is that I have my Altium license that is about to lapse the 5th of June. I decided to buy the license last year because it was half off, and their license is usually $5,000 per year. So I got $2,500. It was a good deal. I said, you know what? It's great. The Patreon is kind of paying for it, which is great, but Patreon is not going, I don't have more Patreon people. Actually, it's going more down than up. And I don't like that kind of money, so I have to kind of cut it loose, which means that I kind of have to design and do all the changes right now. So I have like 3 weeks to rework everything that it needs to be reworked and design all the modules. I want to come back to that later, but I just want to give you pictures of the next 3 weeks. In the next 3 weeks, my strategy is simple. This weekend, I'm going to install the whole workflow, and what I will do is start manufacturing the keyboards. The keyboards is a simple, the surface mount on the keyboard is pretty simple. It's mostly diodes for the matrix. Few components here and there, few resistors, few capacitors. So I'll probably build like maybe 20, 25, 30, whatever. I have 30 boards. I've already shipped maybe 25 boards. I'll be able to build them all, which is great. Then I have to build them by hand, solder everything by hand. And then I guess at this point I could move to the other page. So, which ties in with the order of the 2560K. So, all these topics are interlinked between each other. So you have to bear with me on this. So at this point, in the next 3 weeks, the strategy is really about um, slowly ramping up the production. So first step would be to assemble the keyboards. And my strategy will be to assemble stuff during the day and doing PCB work at night. So more or less. So it depends, because I have many modules to design. They're not very difficult to do. They're pretty straightforward, but they still need to be done. And in order to do this, and since I have a deadline on the license, I need to create all of these things before it lapses. Now, what's gonna happen after? Well, I have a friend that I could borrow his license for a while, a person I know from where I used to work, but I'm going to not say anything. There's always more, grayish zone ways of going about getting software to work. I'm not going to go farther than that, but unless I get like a shitload of orders between now and then, there's no reason, or unless they come back and say, hey, we're going to keep, giving it to you half off. I don't intend to keep it because, I think it's time to kind of shut down the whole fabrication, not the fabrication, but design phase of things. I'd like to move on finishing the phase and production stuff. And if later, if the needs be, then I could re-enable it and start paying it off again. But I need sales for that, and I don't have sales now. The sales come in and come out. I mean, the price are up, so people are a bit skittish. I just hope that that you all that are waiting for products, when you get your products, you can be like the people that did their videos and shit on Twitter about the Mega 65 and just like advertise about it and talk about it and do your thing, right? Just go do some what's the word, bragging, and tell everybody that nobody cares about their Mega 65. Okay, so the idea is that I cannot spend the whole day doing production for many reasons. For a physical reason, because I'm going to kill myself. The second thing is I think I need to kind of mix it up with other stuff. There's FPGA work to be done. But the next 3 weeks, it's all about PCBs, PCBs, PCBs. And I'm going to talk about the Gen X after. So I on the presentation, you can see that I'm showing you. Let me get to the, I don't know if my mouse can. Okay, so I don't see if you see my mouse. So keyboard first, then I will start assembling, because every keyboard is customized for the request, the keys you wanted. So all these boards needs to be assembled, soldered by hand. There's 88 keys to be assembled one by one, plus the LEDs. So 2 solder per switch, plus 4 solder per LED. So that's 6 solder joints per keys. I'll let you do the math. So that's 600, less than 600 joints to solder per board. And there's 30 of them. So that's a lot of solder. So, but this is usually pretty zen to do. It's pretty, you just do it, and you do like 3, 4, 5 a night. And I can go through the week and do it. The bottom parts is very simple. Okay, the bottom parts of the main boards of the K is mainly small semiconductors, just capacitors, few resistors here and there. It's really fast. So I should be able to build all the bottom sides within 1 day, easily. So that's done. Okay, so these are the 2 things I'd like to do next week during the day. Then we start manufacturing the top sides. The top sides are a lot longer. No matter how we slice it, I can probably do 4 or 5 per day. So I will probably spend the next week, I'll probably, start manufacturing 4 or 5 a day and put them on the shelf. And by the time I'm done, then the next step comes, which is to put all the true holes. I'll mix match every day to do something like that. I guess I can probably build like 20, 25 top sides within 3 or 4 days, I guess, if I stretch it. I mean, these are all estimated times. That could go a lot faster. It could go a lot slower. Then what I can do is really build, and then after that I can take a batch of 5. They need to be inspected, correct all the shorts and everything. One thing that makes having a machine a lot better is that the solder joints are a lot better because the paste was not sitting for 5 hours, it was sitting only for an hour, which is usually the pastes are good for that. So the quality of the joints are better, there's less shorts, there's less shenanigans, makes the debugging a lot faster. So that's one other thing. So then I have to solder the true hole stuff. So probably what I'll do is just solder just the true hole stuff, make a batch of 5 or 10, we'll see. And then I can start doing the assembly. I have like 15, close to 20 enclosure ready to be populated or almost. So then it's assembly time. Putting all the different assembly, and then put it together, put all the screws, tied it up and everything, because I prepared them, so they already have their inserts and all these things, so that's already done. I'll start printing more, so I should be able to not run out of, enclosures. And then finally, when everything is put up together, final test, I can run all the tests on the kernel, flash everything, make sure everything is fine, put that in the box and ship them. So there's a lot of steps between now and the moment you'll be shipped, but I think within the next 3 or 4 weeks, I can make this happen. And I think it's going to become the standard delivery time over time. So this is one aspect. So this is the A2560K. So I'm not making any promise, but now there's no reason for me to not go further and actually start doing what I wanted to do like 2 months ago, which is to really put everything in production. And the timing is good. I said it many times, I said it again. On the silver lining of not having the machine was the fact that I was able to finish the design of the Gen X, at least 90% of it, before I was going to get busy with the A2560K. So this is in a nutshell. So I really hope I can start shipping by mid-June. And then after that, it's going to be like a bunch of 5s, 5, maybe more. Because if all the boards are ready, then it's just about putting it together and putting the insert, doing mechanical stuff. But I have other stuff to do, but my goal is really to ship 5. But I guess by the time when I start shipping, I think it's going to be, there's no reason why things do not keep going, and it will become normal again. So I really want to get this done. But as I said, my limiting factor right now is my license lapsing, and I have to do everything by the 6th of June, all the design of the PCB. So that's going to take, so that's why I'm designing these, I'm manufacturing things that are easy to do. Not the main boards where I have to get more involved mentally. I just want to get stuff done, pile them on the shelf, and then I'll use them later, like the keyboards and everything. Keyboards are simple. They're just a lot of soldering. Okay, so that's the part of the A2560K that is a bit, anyway, so moving on. Okay, I created a video for Patreon just today about the technical issues with the Gen X. I want to make it, I put it it's going to be on for everybody Monday. It's basically for the high-paying Patreon people. No offense to the low-paying, but if you're paying more, I guess you should have some special stuff for you. So I created something a little bit earlier today about this. So in a nutshell, basically what happened is that this board here, okay, so the A2560, the Gen X, I was able to get the 816 side to work, but there's an issue, which is weird. So I never really found, it was about the interrupt. There was like something very random about it. So there was like some jamming. It's like I'm clicking, and then the keyboard doesn't work anymore, and then it started working again. That type of thing. So I don't think it was a major thing. Probably maybe an input that is open, whatever. I got the 68040 to work as well. But again, I had issues with the Super IO. One thing that happened with that board is that I built it, started doing code on it with the 816, then I sent it off to VCF East, to Michael, and it came back. And basically after I started having issues. The biggest problem with this board is that the bulk of the routing is in the middle with the FPGA. Everything after that, it's a 6-layer boards. What happened after that is that the routing becomes sparse, and usually it's always a good rule to fill all those holes with copper. But this board is big, and there's 6 layers of it, so that means that there's 6 layers of copper. And as you know, copper absorbs a lot of heat, and that's probably what created the problem in the first place, where there was not enough heat and the soldering of the FPGA was not great. But it was enough to make it work. So I suspect that my 816 problem is more soldering joint issues. So what happened is that when I got it back and I wanted to work on the 68040, I needed to use a socket here. And basically what happened is that the board warped, right? So it just warped like this. And if you could see the FPGA, you could see that the balls on the sides are more squished than the one in the middle. It warps a lot because I had to rework the connector, the SODIMM connector, and I had to push on it when the plate, my hot plate, was eating it up. And that's another thing. When I do rework, I use a hot plate, and because you cannot heat with a heat gun everything. There's too much copper. It's not gonna work. It's gonna be a nightmare. So 2 things came out of this. First, I need to redesign or to change the way the copper is poured into the board, meaning that there's 2 layers, the ground and the power plane, that's going to be full of copper everywhere. It's going to be full. But the other layers, they'll be like crossing, like I don't know how to say it, hatching of the copper, so there's less copper. Okay, so there's copper to do a shielding, an EMI shielding, but less copper for heat absorption. So the board is not going to warp like a piece of paper. And that's, so when I started having, because I reworked the FPGA to get a better solder joints, and then the other problem ensued, and I said, you know what, this needs to be fixed. So basically what I did, I went back to the drawing board, and I'm going to show you how the Gen X looks now. So this is the new generation, the revision B of the Gen X. Let me get an Altium to show you. So this is, for some reason, Altium decided to remove some of my 3D parts. I don't know, there's a bug now. So I did some changes. So instead of being a very finicky, very fragile SODIMM socket, I got it off and said, this is a lot of problem. This is a ticking bombs. I need to get this off. So I replaced them by 50 mils headers. So I have 3 of them, which means that I have all this space to put a lot of really cool things on top as a daughter card. I moved the SD card closer. I moved the floppy a little bit closer as well, because the FPC cables are kind of expensive when they're long. I changed, there was a mistake with the ATX connector here. I inverted those 2 rows. They're supposed to be inverted. So I fixed that. Yeah, so to show you, this is not the final, but I'm going to show you so this is the 68,000 module. Let me show you the underneath. So there's a lot of room here to expand. And something else I did as well was to move the memory for the 32-bit processor on the modules itself, which means that if the flash is on the module and the FPGA flash for the module is on the module, it means that when you switch the modules, the FPGA load stays with the modules as well as the kernel that goes along with it, which means that you don't have to reflash your board every single time. The reason I didn't do it that time at the beginning was really because I was, I thought that it was like duplicating, having to buy more memory. Like if you have 3 modules, that means you have duplicating 3 memories. So I was like, yeah, but the chances that somebody will have multiple modules, which is over time, possibly more often than not. At the beginning, at least, I don't have to duplicate the memory for the same reason, you know. So anyway, I put everything on the module. So you remove the module, you install your module, the kernel that goes along with the processor will be there. You can update it, of course. The FPGA load, the same thing. You'll still have to update it if it's been a while. But in a nutshell, you don't have to reflash everything every time. Those connectors are definitely more rugged to deal with multiple insertion. Oops, sorry. And I think it's a better idea. It's definitely, like I said, more room to do a lot more fancier things, and I have great ideas. Anyway, so this is in a nutshell what the Gen X, oops, I just moved it. In a nutshell, what the Gen X is about. So I'm going back to my presentation. Okay, so where are we at with this? So the design of the board is already, the changes of the board, the Gen X board are already made. I finished the 68,000 modules today. There's like 3 or 4 more to be done, which I will be doing the next 2-3 weeks. I need to also change the K a little bit. So I need to revise it because now I need to order more boards. So all these things have been done on the, so it's basically ready to be sent out. But I want to wait a couple of days still. If I can get the other boards to work, I can get other stuff to do to work on it. I'll wait a little bit. So yes, the copper issue needs to be solved, and the connector was a big problem, was going to be a big problem, so I think I fixed that. So that's done. So that's what I did this week. Next. Okay. Let me get my... Okay, before I keep going, is there any questions in the chat you would like me to answer for what I've talked about so far? So I'll take 5 minutes. Are we good? Or everybody is just listening in with your headphones? No? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Got the okay. I'm keeping going. Okay. Now that you know what's going on for now till June, so that means that from the moment the PCB for the Gen X, new Gen X plus the modules, it should take about, I would say, about 2 weeks, you know, unless the what was I going to say? Unless I have issues with CBSA again. When I say CBSA, that's the custom service. And that would be jammed again, split again, that type of shenanigans. Usually I don't, because it's small package, they're being cleared, they know where it's coming from, they know where it's going. I've been ordering so much, so it's not an issue. So usually I'm going to order a lot of stuff at the same time. And what's going to happen next is that obviously I'm going to receive the new boards, assemble one, finish the code, and my plan was that's going to be done during June. And I guess by that time I will have a little bit more time because some Ks will be shipped and more will be shipped and so on and so forth. The FPGA is relatively stable. So before I go and jump in Vicky 3 and do all these changes, I'd like to finish the base stuff with Vicky 2 and the 816, the 68040, and the 68,000, and possibly starting to ship some. Okay, so one of the restrictions of the Gen X board is ultimately the packaging, okay, the enclosures. The enclosure take a long time to print. The pizza box less so because it's just 2 pieces, plus the brackets around, the bezels around, which is really not a big deal. So I'll do a survey in Discord at some point to ask you guys, would you rather wait for the whole thing, or you will be okay about getting the electronics first and getting the enclosure later? The good portion of that is that it would probably be cheaper to ship our customs and everything because it would be less. If I ship a full unit of something, it's going to be heavier, it's going to be more expensive, I think. If I just ship a board, just a PCB, the package will be smaller. And when I ship the box, it's just gonna the enclosure is gonna be just a plastic empty shell. So it's just gonna be real cheap to declare as an empty shell. So you'll have to tell me if you like one case or the other. The other thing about the Gen X's is that most of the customers of the Gen X's right now, 80% are repeat customers. Most of you guys already have Phoenix products in your hand. And if you don't, you will. So I will probably prioritize people that don't have anything first, and the people that have been waiting a long, long time, which means that probably the 10, 15 first people will be serviced right away. And I will be asking you Gen X people which model you want. I talked about this before. However, there's a caveat to one thing. The very, very, very early adopters, the price was very, very, very low. In that case, unless there's a riot and people think that it's not fair, I think I will stick with the few that bought it at a really cheap price. The time where the FMX was FMX EX, I would keep it as a pizza box. Because if you paid $400 and you want a Gen X full size, it's like, I know it's kind of my fault because, and that's why I'm debating about the fairness and everything. I want it to be fair for you guys because I changed things so many times along the way that it's kind of my fault. I should give the choice to everybody. But I'm thinking about maybe it would be, but there's not that many people who pay that kind of pricing anyway. So I'm thinking about it. So if you have in the position to this, please let me know. I will reconsider and ask everybody, all the Gen X customers, what model you want. Ultimately, it's a matter of sound chips and enclosures and what's in the enclosure. Because like I said, the pizza box is going to be difficult to do very fancy, very 5-volt processors. It's going to be a lot easier to do it in the Gen X Cube because you'll have a bigger power supply, there's more space, and so on and so forth. So these are ideas. It doesn't stop anybody, it wouldn't stop anybody to say, hey, I want to pay an extra to get the full flange cube. And again, this is all about, it's not about to get rich. I'm not rich, I'm poor as hell, but I still want to do it, but I need to be able to, of course, to live, like I said, and I want to be fair. So let me know if this, what I'm proposing, it doesn't sound fair. Because again, I'm responsible for the fact that I've changed things along the way, and I should mention it that, things might change. But if people protest and say, no, it's not fair, we shall have the chance to choose any model you want, fair enough. So that's the deal. What else? So in the best ideal world where everything goes fine and I can get all the parts I want, I have parts to build about 30 units here, the K or the Gen X, more or less. I hope to produce most of the backlogs of the K by the end of July, end of June, early July. And then I would transition from the K to the Gen X full. Although if there's new orders, then I would like to give like a month of delay, 4 to 6 weeks delay for manufacturing and shipping. So that be the situation with that. So I'll keep you posted anyway, because I like communication. I like to let you know about everything, so at least you don't come in my door and say, where's my shit? Very important to me. Although I'm going to go back into low power, go back into my igloo and keep doing design for a while. And like I'm writing on my slide here, I'd like to be over with all the backlogs by end of summer, September, and yeah, the idea of shipping the electronics before, you have to let me know if it makes sense. So, uh, bu- 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 okay, so I'm slide. Why does it not change? Okay, I'm trying to change my slide. I can't. What's going on? Okay, so that's good. Okay, there you go. All right, guys. So this is a wrap up. This is a wrap up of the timeline for from now, from June and on. So till June, PCBs, bottom side of PCBs, keyboards. Early June, we start manufacturing top sides, putting them in units, ship them. Mostly Ks. I'll get prototypes for Gen X, getting the Gen X to start to boot on both sides, having no issues whatsoever. Then starting to send some prototypes to some key people. 2 or 3 units, I can give it to some people. Like Vincent, for example. Vincent is a good candidate for this because he's working on Immutos, having a early thing, early adopters type of thing would help everybody. So there's 2 or 3 people I'd like to give them units right away. So please don't, bash my head on the walls if I skip you. It's really for the benefit of the group. Like I did with Deshui with the basic, I think having an early unit and Peter, of course, with the kernel made a lot of sense. So I'd like to do this with the Gen X as well. Then I'm not talking about the modules. The modules are very small. They're not really complicated. So I'm not going to talk with the machine. It's going to be fairly easy to do. A day of work, I'll have a shitload of modules. But anyway, so July, mainly Gen X, August, mainly Gen X, and during the day, it's production. During the night, it's basically FPGA design, supporting new modules, CPU, like the Intel and more. I have surprises and everything. I have ideas to kind of lining up the sales a little bit to get my repeat customer to spend their hard-earned money again. You know how good I am to do this, right? So I plan on getting more of your money. By the way, just an announcement. If you want to give donation, it's still very much welcome. I don't like to beg, but once in a while, donations are always good. So that's my advertisement segment. Lasted 2 seconds. I'm not successful enough on YouTube to start monetizing my shit. So till I get like 1,000 users and 4,000 hours of watching, that's how it's going to be for a while. So if you want to help, if you're rich, please don't give if you need that money. But if you're rich, go and make my day. Anyway, so I sure hope that by the end of the summer there will be more orders, and I'll try to get in the flow of manufacturing stuff unless something else happen. You never know what happens. Congrats to Haken to finding a job finally. So that's was one of the good news. Another comment that has no relationship with what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that things can change dramatically, often, and we don't see it coming. But anyway, my goal is really to ship everything as soon as possible, of course, but being reasonable with the printing time and everything. There was some talk about getting another printer, a 3D printer, but then we need more money. And, I've been begging a lot of money to buy equipment so far, so I'm not sure I feel great about doing it again. But having 2 printers would get faster, but I still need to generate revenues more. And that's going to be another topic, probably another time. I'll talk about it more a little bit later. So in terms of FPGA design, there's the A2560U DMA that needs to be done. It's a bit more complex than I thought. I worked a little bit on it last week. A bit because the 16-bit is just a bit more tricky than it was, but I need to finish that. Then do the Vicky 3 implementation. I'll talk about this. And then do all the new supports for the new processors, whatever they are. I need to keep some stuff. I cannot give you all the good news right away. You'll jump on me like, oh, I want to order one. It's like, no. You have to keep in mind that ordering is not making me richer. Okay? Putting an order in makes me a tiny bit rich. It's just more work. Okay? But it's cool. I want you to be happy. I want you to have your stuff. And I'm more than happy to produce anything for you to make you happy. But at the end of the day, it's not like getting a donation. It's not the same. Anyway, okay. So that wraps up basically the essence of what I wanted to talk to you about. And everything else is really about, okay, the Vicky 3 implementation, what I wanted to do. It's not super defined yet. Definitely new text mode. So the channel A, I'd like to make it semi-graphic a little bit. Maybe have like a tiling mode, like a 8-bit, 8x8 tiling mode stuff, that I could use the resources of the FPGA instead of using the external RAM. So it would not be competing. I need to integrate the second buffer of the VRAM to do a dual buffering system, so you can literally go write your stuff full bandwidth in one, display the other one, and switch, so on and so forth. That would be one way of doing things. I think in terms of resources, I think we have a lot. I need to make stuff better. I'm implementing the 8x8 tiling system right now for Daniel that I want to scale back to the C256 FMX and everything. So we can have tiles of 8x8. When we're doing 320 by 240, having an 8x8 is a better idea than having 16 by 16 because all the pixels are bigger. And it's great for old arcade games that used to have like these clunky 8x8 pixels. So I'm doing that. Actually, it's done. I just need to test it. So I'm waiting for Daniel to give me some content I can use. I want to do the hardware Redesign algorithm drawing by hardware. I want to do some transparency stuff. Definitely a better collision system. I have a good idea to do something so much better. And obviously, and this is the biggest part of the Vicky 3 that's going to be the most fancy and finicky, and I'm not looking forward to do it. It's the DMA system in the K and the Gen X for the 32-bit systems because it's a multiple channels simultaneous, because the way the system has been designed, you could transfer stuff from DRAM to, since you have the SRAM to run your code, you can isolate, because everything is in the FPGA, you can isolate the code running and get the DMA to transfer stuff from the memory to the VRAM to the memory. When I say memory, I mean DRAM, and then DRAM to a device, DRAM to a FIFO, DRAM to anything, and you could do this concurrently together. So it's going to be a pretty big DMA controller for the K, and that's the biggest part of Vicky 3 that needs to be done. And doing transparency is going to be cool. Doing DMA and moving stuff around is going to be very boring, but it needs to be done. That's the strength of the system. That's where it is, and that's why the SRAM was separated from everything else. So that's why I always said that if you can if you can run your code always within the SRAM, that makes your software is going to be a lot more powerful, because then you can use this double buffering system with the DMA, so you can have full bandwidth. Like we're talking about 400 megabytes of transfer between the VRAM and SDRAM, because then I can use the DMA and use the burst mode of the SDRAM to transfer all that stuff in, and it's 4 pixels at a time. So yeah, that's a lot of data. So 400 megapixels per second, which is decent, I would say. So if you want to move data sprites, and then you can read and write the way you want, right? So that's the deal. So that's basically, in a nutshell. There's probably going to be other stuff. Maybe I thought about having different sprite sizes and stuff like this. So these are usually not so big of a deal to change. It's really about the bandwidth, and people need to understand the concept of there's a fixed amount of time to do a certain amount of things. So having smaller sprites, you could have more, but then you're going to have, like, having 8x8, it takes more time than having 16 by 16 tiles, because you have to fetch more often for the same screen resolution. So that's bandwidth. So if people understand the concept of bandwidth, then I could have more resources, but then you stop being able to use other type of graphics. Like if you use bitmap, then you use bitmap. If you use let's say I would give you 128 sprites, but then you might not have enough time to do tiles. So that's a give and take. But with double buffering, it'd be great. But that's going to be a Vicky 3 thing. And it's going to be solely for the Gen X and the Decay. So anything backward would not be compatible. So if you do a game for Vicky 3, it's for the big kahunas. All right. So otherwise, CPU support. I need to readapt my old code back to the new module. I need to do the 46. This will be done during summertime. The 46 is a totally different beast. Not super difficult to interface, but the booting process is different. A new workflow. Yeah. So this is going to be like this thing I'm going to do on the side. The 68 EC30, this is something we need to be discussing because it's a 5-volt part. I never tried a 5-volt part, and I'm thinking that I might scrap it altogether. And for those who have hoarder a 68 EC030, I was thinking that I could switch it to an EC040. So since I know the 40 and it's already 0 EC40V, then it would be something I know already and we could get it fast. And I plan on doing a board modules for the EC040V, which is a different package. There's the RISC-V. We need to have a discussion about it. Okay, everybody in Discord will have to have a discussion. I need to know if it makes sense to invest time in this. Some people say, yes, it'd be great to have. I feel that it's possible that it could open up the doors for getting out of the retro community to get people today to get involved in the RISC-V because it would allow people to work on a new processor they're pushing while you have graphics and sound that is really motivating to get involved with. Like, so, but it would not be a very fancy core. It would be like a basic core. So there's things to be thinking about. It's a soft core, which means that you could ultimately put it on the K, you could put it on the Gen X. And is it useful or not for the future of what we're doing? So I'd like to have well, I'll start a discussion about this at some point. The channel may be about it, and we can talk about it. The RISC-V implementation is basically time. It's my time. So would I make it more accessible? Will people jump on this? I don't know. You tell me. So I have good reason to do it, and I have good reason not to do it. So right now we're kind of stuck in this world of retro, and we're kind of the black sheep. So, you know, if we want more people, although we would need more content, that's another topic. I'll switch slides. There's other CPU I want to do. I talked about it before. I'm not going to tell you which one I want to do before my license go out. But yeah, surprise, I have other ideas as well. But anyway, I promise it's not going to get me into development hell too long. At least it's not going to be something I'm going to do on the side after. Anyway, so miscellaneous stuff. 2560U, I talked about this. In terms of Gen X, like I said, the board has been done. I just need to do the modules. I need to retouch the different enclosures for better printability, stuff like this. Nothing major. You saw them. I mean, aside of the big one, I didn't print out yet. I had ups and downs with the printer. Printer, as usual, prints very well, but there's cheap component on it because of China, and some broken down, and I had to fix them. So it's getting better and better and better. Now I flattened my plate last week, so it's a lot flatter than it used to be, so less problem of adhesion, shit like this. So, you know, it's a slow process. Not always interested to start working on my printer because it takes a lot of my time. So I thought, you know, should do something else. So now that I have a machine, and this is something I've said many times before, is that considering that I have a surface mount machine, I didn't have the surface mount machine, I didn't want to commit to do big all-out marketing. Now I do have the machine, so this is something I might do. to go tempt the world outside the retro community. The retro community is mainly users that like to pip in their shit, right? We talked about this many times before. It's all about making your C64 a 2022 version of a C64. And I'm not going to tell you what I think about that. Now the Mega 65 is out. We saw a shitload of stuff on Twitter. It's great. The deal is that the Mega 65 is mainly, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, with all due respect to the community, the Mega 65 group, which is awesome. I want to say that out loud to make sure that my words are not misconstrued. It's an FPGA board where they've designed a core for 7 years, 5, 6, 7 years of the C65 and the Commodore 64, and which means that right on boot you can run C64 code. There's no or little C65 code written so far, and or you can use the FPGA on board to run, or I think they're starting to have a migration towards from Mr. Board to the C65, the Mega 65, which is all good and dandy. That's why it's probably sell a lot more than we do, because we're not doing any of these things. The positive side of the Mega 65 coming out is the fact that there's a C65 side, which might lead some people to think, to actually get them on board about the ideology of creating new content for it, which I would embrace and say, because this is our motto, we want to create new things. So it would get people in the mindset of creating new things. And that's why I've said many times before, the X16 would have been great for that too, to bring people to go back to the mindset of let's create new things, not going back and take a little bit of 2022 and shove it in there and say, hey, here's it. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against porting stuff. I think porting is a great way to reintroduce something and to get the people to be interested in it. But that being said, I think it's a great. I'm going to put my picture bigger. I think so. The Mega 65 could help us in a way, but we're still very much a niche group. And since the retro community is, in a way, very much into playing old games and running old games and really spend your time spending money to revamp your stuff, we're really not, we cannot attract these people because first thing they say is that it's too expensive. So obviously having more content would bring more people in, but that content takes time and it certainly takes some machines. So honestly, I don't see more people coming in, like a good portion of people coming in, because essentially there's no reason for them to pay $1,000 to get a machine that nothing runs on it. And before you get your stuff, so it's going to take a year again before we actually have more people coming for the content. But anyway, so this is the situation. So getting out of the retro community might bring more developer in. That's what we need. How do we go about it? Most of the time, people that are coming in our community didn't know about anything about what we're doing. So maybe I'm doing some, social network marketing for everybody. Maybe we could pick up some new people. But for the time being, I think we have to look for new developers as more than new users. And over time, more content will come in. So if we build it, they'll come, right? So if people have any ideas now that I have a machine and I'm going to allow myself to actually do more marketing, that's going to be interesting. But anyway, so I want to talk about Michael. Michael, I forgot your last name, sorry. Michael has been absolutely a Phoenix treasure. He's the one who's setting up the VCF East. He was there, he met with people, brought some people in. Thank you very much, Michael. You're doing a wonderful job. He's been thinking about doing this newsletter. I think he started talking to some individual already in the community. He wants to have this thing where he talks about different things, which I thought was a brilliant ideas. And he also started to do an app store, something I wanted to do, never had the time to do because it's not a priority for me. But he's going to curate a app store. So anybody is creating something for any of the Phoenix computer, it will gather in one place where people can download, have the link to the source. So for people to start new things, you can have examples. I think it's a great idea. And that's what Michael is looking for to do. And I love him for it. I'm really grateful for him to do this. So thank you, Michael, for doing this. So this is a big announcement. I want to talk about Peter's kernel. I think it's drawing to an end. I will skip my passive-aggressive comment about what happened this week. But I think we're getting there. I'm really happy for him because I think it's time for him to start doing something else. But Peter has been a great asset, and I hope he's going to be around for a while. But yeah, so the floppy is something that I wanted to have. We worked together on it, and we finally managed to make it work. So thank God, by the time you get your K, the floppy will work, which I'm really happy about. We can boot stuff off the floppy, which is really awesome as well. So now I didn't mark it there, but yeah. So I don't want to waste too much time about the marketing stuff. Basically, in a nutshell, what I just talked about. So I think it's going to be time soon to do some marketing because now I can support the possibility of having more orders, but we'll need ideas because we are pretty much captive of our own world. So we would need like maybe a YouTuber or something, but even though it's till we have really good content, like the basic interpreter is going to be a good add-on. Immutos will be a good add-on, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So I don't see anything happening before the end of the year, really. So that's kind of a bit of my problem because I need to sustain myself, and this is really where I need to find a way to get your money and wait out this time where more people will come in, and maybe electronic will become easier to get parts and everything, and it's going to become easier and cheaper. I can reduce the cost of the unit, maybe reduce the price, but still, since they're built by hand one by one, I think they're going to remain high. And basically that's how I kind of thought about the pizza box and everything. So give access to some people the Gen X without breaking the bank, although some people could argue that it's still breaking the bank. But anyway, okay, so before I do the drawing for the raffle, and well, before I ask the questions or ask for Q&A, because I'd like to keep the raffle for the end. So the deal is, what I'm going to do with the raffle is I have a list that was provided by me, by Michael, of all the people that registered. We have 103 names. I would say single names. I think in one instance there's 2 names that seems to be the same. But anyway, we'll let luck decide. What I will do is I will go on random.org, which I already set up, and I will ask for a random number between 1 and 10 that will give me the number of clicks I need to do to find the numbers I want. And then I'll ask for a random number between 1 and 0.3, and I'm going to click between 1 and 10 times. So this number, and then I'll give you the name. I have the file somewhere, and I'll give you the name. Fair enough? All right, so let's do the Q&A first, and then we can finish with the raffle. How's that sound? Yes, softcores. Yes, softcore is an FPGA thing, which means you would have a separate load with a RISC-V softcore where you could download an AK. We would reset the CPU. The main CPU would say, shut up, and I would use all the resources around for the CPU. So that's basically what it would be. So you could put it on the Gen X, you could put it on the K, So that's what the RISC-V would do with the Vicky 3 and everything else. The RISC-V would be a very naked core, because most RISC-V nowadays are like meant to do controls with COM ports and UARTs and Ethernet and all this crap and shit. So I would reduce it to the basic, because I found one that was really basic and simple. And that's what basically I would use. I'd like to keep my rules about CPU clocking is that the external bus should be less than 100 megahertz. So I would say between 50 and 100 megahertz clock range for the RISC-V. There's nothing I want to run more, because anything that is 100 megahertz and more, you start asking for problems with board layouts and everything. That's why in the CPU or, PC world, from the moment we start crossing the 133, 166 megahertz frequency, they start using PCI Express lanes, fast lanes in between the, the different chipsets, because 100 megahertz is kind of 166 because they did it with the ID and everything, but you start having a lot of weird issues and everything. So anything below, I could have a clock, probably a CPU running at 100 megahertz, but then the external clock for the memory would be 50 or something like this. So, okay. All right, so I'm looking at the questions. Micah selling, well, that means I would have to redesign the PCBs, and I don't have any decent software to do it. So I'm kind of in a catch 21, 22. I never remember which one it is. The idea of redesigning the PCB to fit an old case is philosophically speaking, probably not in the ideology of what we're trying to do. We would need like a real use case for this. Like, I would be willing to transfer or to redesign a PCB to fit in a whole enclosure if I had like 50 orders lined up. That kind of thing, right? Replace your Mac 2E for a Phoenix board. Well, actually, it's not a bad idea, but still, no software, no income. So, is it worth it? I don't know. You tell me. With the screen and everything, I don't know. Micah, it's not fundamentally a bad idea. I'm just saying that the difference between the Apple IIe, LE, or any of these models back in the days, they have content. We're still missing content. We can have the most beautiful Mac 2E casing with a Phoenix board inside. We're still out of content. What do? That's the biggest problem, and the problem is that it's my fault because you don't have boards, you don't have machines to actually do your content. And then, you know what's the biggest problem after that is when you're going to get your, let me tell you what's going to happen when you're going to get your unit. You're going to play with it for a week, and then you're going to have the sparkling syndrome. You say, ooh, something more fancy here. Half of the people will get their unit, we're never going to hear about them anymore. I'm sorry, I've told that story so many times, but it's true. It's very true. But anyway, I like I said, fundamentally, I think it's not a bad idea, but still, you would have a casing of L2E with a Phoenix board inside, and still you're going to boot with nothing to run on it. Hardware without software, it's a big thing. And honestly, I thought that with all these years, we would have more than what we have now. But so many people just left the boat, just like, oh no, just bought it as a novelty. Anyway, talked about this before, let's move on. Okay, Jesus asked for the 68040. Okay, the 68040, that's the thing. So the 68040, 25 is in the ceramic package. I want to do the 68040 FE33V, which is the 33 megahertz version, and there's the ceramic 40 megahertz version. The 33V version is cheaper, a lot cheaper than the 40V version. So will there be a faster thing? Yes, but the 40 is a big jump. So like I said, I need to add a lot of timings inside the FPGA changes because a lot of things are timed with the CPU clock. So this the type of thing I never really prioritize because it's really for the more extreme users. So I will come to that. So yes, I'd like to have a 33 and a 40. A 4D CPU speed for the 6804E 40. So I hope it answers the questions. Jesse, can't wait to start showing this hardware off in person or like in a retro group. You did the COVID last week. Nice. Our group is very still virtual. People have old computers. Micah never run again because motherboard are fried. You have a lot of them. Yeah, but Micah, you're not gonna buy 10 Gen X boards to fit into an Apple IIe just for fun of it. That's what I'm saying. As a business endeavor, I need to find ways for people to, and guys, I love you all, but I need to get more people that are not you. The community is a great source of revenue, but I need to get more revenue out of the by having more new people. And I'm trying my best to be as communicative, let people know, but still there's people in the X16 community are still under the spell of David, and David is busy with his games. Actually, I hope somebody can do a porting of the Petski Alien, whatever the fuck his game is, on one of the Phoenix. It's the only platform it's not supported yet. So somebody needs to get on with this shit. So Reddick. Reddick, it's a great question. I don't know. For me, having time to rest, I try to rest. At least now I can go see a movie. Vacation in August, maybe. I really need to get that. You see what I mean? The problem I have right now is that I'm in the vicious circle. In order to get enthusiasm, I need you to get machine. For you to design content, you have the machine. And when you have machine, you can create content that should bring more people in, and they can make more machine. You see the point? No machine, no interest. Only few really hardcore mavericks are actually doing things right now without a machine. Most people just wait. So when you get your machine, you can start doing things. But you know what's gonna happen? Summer is gonna happen. So you're gonna put the machine on the side. You have to go on vacation. So I want to ship stuff. At least I don't feel guilty about it. And then I can, maybe in August, when a good Gen X bunch have come out and Ks have been sent, and enthusiasm has been renewed, and we can go from there. But honestly, I don't see a real big enthusiasm be back before fall time. So yeah, before October, and at that point you'll have machine, and hopefully I've not decided to do something else. So this is where we are. So energy, I'll try to take a day off here and there and chill out and do some exercises. Otherwise I'm going to kill myself physically. It's the physical aspect of it that it's very demanding. Jean-Michel, the 40 megahertz, no, I played a little bit before. I got some stuff to run. It's still murky and not going super fast yet. It's not going as it should because I don't have enough time to actually get it to run properly. Because like I said, there's a bunch of timings related to CPU clock changes, more wait states, more this, more that. But it runs some codes, but then it gets, it stumbles somewhere else in the core. So I need to tie up my timings. I need to tie up everything. 25, I can be a bit loosey-goosey with the timings. At 40, less so. So that's why I don't want to go too high, too fast, because then it becomes super tricky to time everything. There's more latency, takes more time. So you have more delays. And basically that's probably what's going to happen, is that most of the Vicky stuff will have wait states that we'll have to introduce to have more latency, so I can have, I can cope with the 75 or 80 megahertz or 40 megahertz or 50 megahertz that will come in at full speed. So it's coming, not a priority. Sorry, I know you want one. Aside of that, Micah, right, we need to get more retro people. NRG, as the years go by, there will be more retro people. The velocity is a bit slow. Yeah, it's a vicious circle. We've been in, and it's a lot because of me, because I change my ideas, I change my mind, I design new things. But you see, I make my living out of selling hardware. And the only thing about selling hardware that makes my community super hyped up about is to sell you new hardware. The problem is that the hardware I've sold in the past was not compatible. Well, was somehow compatible, but it was a big jump. You know, the jump between a K and Gen X is very small. And everything is inside the system is known, very well known. And I want to stay within that realm. There's only one idea I want to put in place that would require a little bit more development time, but that's for later, when I have time to have fun. Otherwise, it's mainly dealing with CPU interfaces, tidying up timings. That's the rule I set for myself this year, to what was to not design new things from scratch that I didn't know anything about. The only thing I don't know about is the interface with the 46 and all the other new CPUs I'd like to implement with the time I have. Okay, so keep that in mind. No, I will not do a deck alpha. That's not gonna happen. MIPS was definitely on my list, but I don't want to have time for MIPS, so that's out of the game. For somebody talked about the MIPS before. So anyway, so I've been at it for what? 1 hour 30 minutes. Awesome. So any other question at this point, guys? I'm getting the I think it's already in my system. I'm getting the Excel list. Okay. Okay. Okay, so any other question at this point? Chris Bernard, most of us are old. Would be cool if the more new people could be kids. Hard to get attention away from cell phone though. Yeah, well, not sure if I want to have new generation people coming in wanting to put Linux on it. I know Jean-Michel will do this. So we already have somebody who's going to do something I don't want him to do, but he'll do it anyway. So it's not like I can go to France and strangle his neck and say, hey, don't do this. Somebody will do it. At least if it's done, somebody else will do something else, I suppose. We never know. Maybe that's going to be the thing that will make it more popular. Who knows? I should stop telling people what to do. Okay, otherwise, Yuri Emel Van Haren, keep it simple. No more scope creep. More scope creep. Yeah, speaking of, no more creeps. Chris, you know, feature creeps. Aiken, are we going to see? Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, you know what? All right. Something I wanted to do. And if you tell me that you want it, absolutely. I'm not promising anything. Like, it's something pretty simple to do. What I wanted to do was for the Gen X to have a module, and that will require times though. A module's like a zero insertion for socket where you could actually put a 6502 or 6809 or Z80. Okay? Now, my thought about having the possibility of running old CPUs is something I've been thinking about for a while. But my biggest problem was, okay, I have 64K of memory. That's it. So my thought was for those 8-bit CPUs, I would scale down Vicky. I would scale down Vicky to something more akin to a C64 type graphics system. Some sound chips, a few here and there, maybe a SID and 2. Something to keep the, like it would be in 320 by 240 by default, stuff like this. Like something to keep the footprint of the IOs and all the graphic stuff very small. Okay, so that's what my thought. I didn't want to plug a 6502 on Vicky 3. Okay, that's not gonna happen. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I thought I could scale it down and bring it to a 64. So you would literally have some kind of a 8-bit CPU that would have the same backend, same mentality, 6502, 6809, because the pins changes, but mostly about the power and everything. But otherwise, that's an idea I had. So we could put that on a Gen X. That's a Gen X things, the modules. You would have, you put your CPU, you configure the dip switches and everything. You say, hey, this is the power where it goes, or put 3 sockets and say, this is for the 6502s, whatever. And then the FPGA, and this is what we require time, would be a scale down to fit everything in within the 64K. But we could come up with ideas like this is 64, do some shadowing mode and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if it turns people on. Paging, possibly, but nothing fancy, because paging everything and indexing anything like the X16, it's not something I'm interested to do. But I'd be willing to try to find a way to expand the memory outside of the 64K. But I wouldn't want to put all the I/O graphical stuff outside of the 64K. I'd like to keep them local, but it would be a subset of what Vicky 3 can do. Maybe a bitmap, some sprites, of course. But like I said, mainly like what the C64 can do, and keep it within this. So think about it. We can talk about it on Discord. But so it's definitely something I thought about doing. Pretty simple to do. That could be done on a different software if I wanted to do it with the cheap free software, PCB software if I wanted to. So Aiken, that's what I thought about. So maybe that could bring more people in. But then we would need an emulator. We would bin something to be compatible. So it would be like a different, it would be a Vicky 1.5. You know, a Vicky, a tiny Vicky. Let's put it this way. So we could have a graphic core that would be a tiny Vicky. And we could even put a DMA thingy, a little bit like the C64 with its expansion modules. So keep that in mind. Yes, Jean-Michel, yes, there are 5 volt, but then I could put translator. Easy enough. They're not super fast. You know, they're 1, 2, 3 megahertz. I can put 5 volt, 3 volt translators. No big deal. Okay, then after Aiken, Jesse, we already have a 2 megabyte MMU standard for the 6809. I think Z80 would be great for running sound as a coprocessors. You have to remember as well that the Gen X has still been designed to be able to run the 2 CPUs at the same time. So this is something we might want to investigate or to play with later. So we could have the 816 doing the sound and the whatever CPU to do everything else. Then the C180 MMU 1 megabyte. The Z80 was the new version of the C8. There's like the EZ80 I could interface. I could make a module for. I thought about that too. There's a 60 meg version. That probably could be done on a different software as well. So yes. So I know Peter is interested into the 6809. So would that be a way to get more people in? I'm not sure people would pay $800 to have a 6502 system with, you know, full metal jacket, 64 megs of DRAM. We never know. But yeah, that straightforward, very easy to do. The PCB, I mean, the FPGA still needs to be done. And again, the strategy here for the FPGA is always to invest my time where it pays off, you know, so where it's useful. And people ask for new things. I don't mind putting new things in as long as there's a use case for it. Daniels want to have 8x8 tiles to do a game. Fair enough. It turns out to be a game I want, so it's like it's easier to sell. Otherwise, but that's another feature creep. So Yuri will be upset at me because I'm thinking about doing new stuff. Yeah, C26502U. Well, if the core works on the Gen X, maybe. But I'm still cut with the freaking. Although I have to admit that smaller FPGA would be easier to find. So yeah, why not? Maybe. If there is a market for it, why not? I should do a survey about this and ask if people would be interested. Maybe I could get people's attention away from the X16. Oh no! Maybe David would be happy because then it would, you know, release the pressure. Anyway, so new ideas, simple things to do. We have a good base. The Gen X would be a good base to start. We could do a U, a mini Vicky U, 6502U or 6809U. Actually, you could still have the socket and put the processor you want. It's the same thing. Yeah, Still need a software though. Ding. Okay, all right. Any other question, guys? Yeah, I could do a TMS 99 version. No, the Easy 80 was something I thought about. The 6502s, the 8-bit, I thought about it, but it would like the subset of Vicky. I've been thinking about that a lot. Again, I can do that somewhere in the summer. A mini U, would it get people's attention? It would be cheap. At least it would be cheap. I'll think about it. Okay. Anything else? Yuri, have people trade features for running software on existing unit. On existing unit. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying there. You're saying something or you're asking something? My God, the lag is long. Okay. I think we're going to move on to, I'm sure Yuri will answer. Let's move on to the drawing. Is everybody on the Discord have registered? Okay, so first step, I want to show you, we'll remove the PowerPoint and I will add the random org. My God, so this is the random org and you'll be witness. I still don't understand Yuri, but anyway, I will. Okay, so the deal was, so we had a drawing for people who were not aware. So during the VCF East, somebody in the community was very generous to donate the amount of money to buy a C256 Phoenix Gen X pizza box, right? And that money was supposed to be spent the way I wanted, but although he did give it to, he said you can do whatever you want with it, but it's if you want to do a drawing, and I said okay, fine, I will do a drawing. So Michael did most of the job to set up the system and the website and everything. Thank you, Michael, again. So we got 103 names because the last day was last week. And I'm not going to show you the Excel sheet. You'll have to believe me, and I'm going to swear on the head of Lucifer himself, because you know I'm the mistress of all villainy. So my god is Lucifer. So trust me. So like I said, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my webpage, and I'm going to draw a number, like I said, between 1 and 10. And I'm going to generate a number between 1 and 10, and this is the number of clicks I'm going to do to get the number I need for the list of 110. So, okay, so I will have to do 6 clicks. Okay, so now 6 clicks. We have 103 names. I'm going to put 104 just in case it's less than 1. And I'm going to click 6 times, right? So we're all in. So hold on. So this is first time. So we have 25, the first one. Okay, I'm going to write it down just in case. So 25 is the first one. 53 is the second one. 60 is the third one. It's going to be the sixth one. It's not going to be the seventh. Okay, so the next one, the fourth one is 12. The fifth one is 2. And the sixth one, the winning number is 87. Okay, so winner is the 87th name in my list. So 87 in my list, it's, hold on, I want to be fair. Okay, 87 number, it's a French person. His name is Henry B from France. is the winner. Oh, no, I made a mistake. Is it a mistake? I made a mistake. I'm stupid. No, sorry. No, I made a mistake. I'm going to be killed. Seriously, I click on the 88. Seriously. The number is, the A7 number is, I don't know his name, is Constantine from UK. Sorry, Puckridge, UK. So is he here? He's gonna kill myself. So my God, you're an idiot. Yeah. So 87. I'm gonna write it down because I need to. Okay. So I will. So basically, what I will do is I will contact Constantine, and if Constantine doesn't answer or doesn't reply, I will go to number 2, and number 2 would be number 2 is Micah. So if Constantine doesn't answer Micah, you're gonna win. And then if Micah doesn't respond, then it's going to be number 12. And that would be an already a user, Mr. Wicker, but I don't want to say more names. So if the Mr. Constantine doesn't answer Micah, you win the Gen X. That's so funny. Anyway, so that's the deal. So that's it. I'm an idiot. I'm such an idiot. Yeah, he's probably not there. You got a man Henry. Okay, all right. So if Constantine Henry can win, then okay, all right. That's about it for me. Thank you everybody for playing. I know I'm an idiot. I'm the village idiot. All right. Anything else, guys? You want to say? We're at the close. Where are the close? Oh. Nothing? Nothing? I stopped talking. Are we good? So, so if there's anything else, thank you guys for thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for all your great support. Thank you for all your effort, your patience. I know it's been a long time, and I'll need you to be patient a little bit more. But at least we have it, so things will start happening from tomorrow and on. So yes, and if you have any ideas, thing that you think could help, without me like jeopardizing everything else, I really want to finish what I started. But like I said, I think the Gen X is going to be a wonderful base to test a lot of different things. And I think the whole idea of doing the 8-bit thing would be interesting, but I would start off as I would use the Gen X as a base and then cost it down if it makes sense. But then again, we would need support and people interested to work to work off the kernel and all that stuff. But yeah, so I'll be coming back to you soon about different surveys, different ideas. If you have any objections, if you think what I'm proposing for different topics are egregious and stupid, please let me know. I'm always welcome. I always welcome comments. Obviously, it's always the way you're going to present your comments. you know, I can be adamant about my ideas and my ways of doing things, but I know sometimes I do stupid things. And the problem is sometimes people don't stop me doing my stupid things because usually they don't know how to go about it. But yeah, I respect everybody and I respect your feedbacks. But as a human being, I don't, as a person and me myself, I don't like to be pushed around into ideas. I need to be introduced to them and being. It's like you have to kind of seduce me with it and fleece me into it without pushing me around into you should do this and you should do that. It's really about suggesting things and you let me wrap my head around it and come up with solutions and say, you know what, that makes sense. Like, and I don't know everything, of course, and I don't know how things would be the response and the of the community for it. Again, I feel a bit captured in the position we are in. I mean, I'd like to find a way to expand without jeopardizing everything we've done. I know I have the tendency to kind of jump ship and then start on something new. This is my